Before giant cities, highways, and modern technology covered North America, the lands of the United States and Canada looked completely different. Thick forests stretched endlessly across the east, massive buffalo herds moved through the central plains, desert dominated the southwest, and icy snow covered the far north. But these lands were not empty. Millions of people were already living there for thousands of years. These people are today called Native Americans, Indigenous American, First Nations, Inuit, or Alaska Natives, depending on the region and community. They were the original peoples of the Americas, long before Europeans arrived. Many people imagine Native American as one single group, but in reality, they were made up of hundreds of different tribes and nations, each with their own language, traditions, belief, clothing, leadership, system, and way of life. Tribes such as the Cherokee Nation, Navajo Nation, Sioux Nation, Iroquois Confederacy were all completely different from one another. Some lived in forests, some in desert, some near oceans, and some in freezing Arctic regions. Their lifestyle changed according to the land around them. In the Great Plain of Central North America, the tribes followed huge buffalo herds across endless grasslands. Buffaloes were the center of life for many tribes. They used buffalo meat for food, hides for clothing and shelter, bones for tools, and even animal fat for cooking and survival. Nothing was wasted. In the eastern forest, tribes built wooden village and farmed crops like corn, beans, and squash. These crops became extremely important because they could grow together and support entire communities. In the southwest desert, people learned to survive harsh heat by building homes from clay and stone called adobe houses. Some communities even built forts into cliffs for protection. For north in Arctic regions, Inuit communities survived in some of the coldest places on Earth. They hunted seals, whales, and fish and wore thick animal fur clothing that wrapped heat better than many modern materials. Their survival skills amazed later explorers because they adapted perfectly to extreme weather conditions without modern technology. One of the biggest misunderstandings about Native American is that they were primitive or uncivilized. In reality, they were highly skilled and deeply connected to nature. They understood weather patterns and animal migrations, farming, medical plants, fishing techniques, and survival strategies passed down through generations. Some tribes traded goods across massive distances. Others created advanced irrigation systems to grow food in dry desert. They built canoes strong enough to travel rivers and lakes, snow shores for winter travel, and hunting weapons designed perfectly for their environment. Their knowledge came from the centuries of observation and experience. Many people today wonder how Native Americans survived brutal winters without electricity, heaters, and modern houses. The answer is intelligence and adaptation. Different tribes created different solutions based on where they animal fur clothing trapped body heat and protected them from freezing winds. Homes were designed carefully for the climate. Teepees could hold warmth surprisingly well, while log houses sheltered large families together during winter. Igloos built by Inuit communities trapped warm air inside the snow. Food was also important for survival. Tribes used dried meat and stored food meat before winter arrived. High fat diets helped maintain body temperature in freezing conditions. Communities worked together, shared resources, and protected one another during difficult seasons. Before Christianity reached North America, the Native Americans followed many spiritual traditions and beliefs. Most tribes believed nature itself was sacred. Mountains, rivers, animals, forests, and the sky were all connected spiritually. Some tribes believed in a great spirit while others followed complex systems involving ancestors, ceremonies, and sacred rituals. Dance, storytelling, music, and community gathering were important parts of spiritual life. Unlike many European religions of that time, indigenous beliefs often focus on balance with nature and respect for the environment. Their spirituality was deeply connected to everyday life. Scientists believe The ancestors of Native Americans arrived in the Americas thousands of years ago during the Ice Age. At that time, a land bridge called Beringia connected Asia and Alaska. A small group crossed this bridge over many generations and slowly spread across North and South America. Over thousands of years, they formed countless civilizations and cultures. So when people say America was discovered, many Native Americans disagree with that idea because millions of people were already living there long before Europeans arrived. In 1492, Christopher Columbus reached the Americas while sailing for Spain. European history often described this as the discovery of America. But from the indigenous perspective, it was the arrival of foreigners into lands already occupied. After Columbus, more Europeans came, the Spanish explored and conquered large regions in Central and South America. The French became traders in northern areas. The Dutch established settlements. Eventually, the British began creating colonies along the eastern coast of North America during the 1600s. At first, some native tribes traded peacefully with European settlers. Europeans received food, animal fur, and survival help, while Native Americans received metal tools, weapons, and other goods. But as more settlers arrived, tension increased. Europeans wanted more land for farming and settlements. Native tribes wanted to protect their territories and tradition. War began breaking out across different regions. But one of the deadliest weapons Europeans brought was not guns or cannons. It was disease. Smallpox, measles, and influenza spread rapidly through native population. Indigenous communities had no immunity to these diseases because they had never encountered them before. Entire villages disappeared. Millions died over time. Historians believe disease alone destroyed huge portion of the Native American population, even before many tribes directly fought Europeans. As British colonies expanded and later became the United States, Native Americans continued losing lands. The government pushed westward across the continent, forcing the tribes away from their homes. One of the most tragic events was the Trail of Tears, where thousands of Cherokee people were forced to leave their ancestral land and march long distance under terrible conditions. Many died from hunger, cold, exhaustion, and disease. Later, native children were taken to boarding schools where they were punished for speaking their languages or practicing traditional customs. Many were forced to adapt European clothing, names, and Christianity. This caused enormous cultural damage that affected generations. Today, most people living in Americas are not Native Americans. Modern Americans mainly descendants from immigrants who came from Europe, Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Over several centuries, Native Americans now form a smaller minority population within the country, but they still exist and continue protecting their identity, tradition, and rights. Many tribes have their own governments and reservations. Some indigenous languages and ceremonies survive despite centuries of suppression. Native artists, activists, scholars, and leaders continue fighting to preserve their heritage and educate the world about their history. Christianity also changed the native communities deeply. Missionaries traveled across native territories trying to convert indigenous people. Some Native Americans converted willingly, while others were pressured or forced through colonial systems and boarding schools. Over time, Christianity spread widely among many tribes. However, many native communities also preserve parts of their traditional spirituality. Today, some Native Americans are Christian, some follow traditional beliefs, and others combine both tradition together. Over just a few centuries, North America transformed completely. Became giant cities, railroads crossed the continent, factories, industries, immigrations reshaped that land. The United States became one of the world's most powerful nations. But behind the transformation lies a painful history for indigenous people who lost land, population, language, and culture, tradition, and also the religion. The main culprit is Christianity. Yet, despite everything they face, disease, war, forced relocation, and cultural destruction. Native Americans still survive today. Their communities, traditions, and identities remain alive. Their story is not only about tragedy, but also about resilience, survival, and endurance. Long before modern America existed, there were already civilizations, cultures, and nations thriving across the continent. And their story remains one of the most important chapters in human history. Thank you guys. Let's meet on the another video. Until then, it's bye from Bharat. Bye bye. Have a nice day.